So it's still the unfinished business in 2016, and Channel's business news editor Bosin Omofai and co-anchor, of course, on Business Morning joins me now as we take a look at the issues. Good morning to you, Bosin.
That's more appropriate as an alternate anchor.
No, I'd rather go with co-anchor.
I'd rather be an alternate director.
But then 2016 was had mostly lows. And taking a look at the list, and I'm hoping that most of our viewers would actually chip in and remind us, for those that maybe we don't have on our list, the economic recovery plan. I know that a lot of Nigerians looked forward to seeing that, being turned out, being, rolled out by the presidency this month. But again,
but that didn't happen.
They have to wait for a little while.
Yes, I'm sure we're not really clear about where the economic recovery plan really is. If you remember, the Budget and Planning Ministry did a 3-day retreat. There were several dozens of people there, ministries, parastatals, consultants, economists, financial analysts, and what have you. And I think if you remember very well, a week or two after, the state governments were also there, not the governors, but their technical team to have input. And we thought that that would lead to a release of that document, but that hasn't yet really happened.
Okay, so another one, of course, and we've had several conversations on this particular one, is the Petroleum Industry Bill. And I remember that there was a public hearing at the National Assembly, and what it now is a Petroleum Industry Governance Bill, trying to tie it in with the 7 big wings that the NNPC and the Ministry of State for Petroleum Resources talked about. There was there was a launch of the 7 big wings, of course, and then everybody was hoping that the Petroleum Industry Bill would actually get a swift passage, bearing in mind all the peculiarities in the oil and gas industry.
The Petroleum Industry Bill couldn't make it. It's going to be a very tough one. If you remember, where we finished off was that the Senate says they have their own version. What that version looks like, we don't have any conclusion on that yet. How is it different from the initial one? This was one document that I've gone through different stages of metamorphosis, if you want to call it, or evolution, as it were. So you're not really sure what the final evolution or conclusion will be, or identity of the PIB. There are also discussions in the year that has been broken down into about 5 or 6 different parts. What part will come first? What part will come later? We're not sure yet. These are some of the things that the National Assembly would have to deal with in the new year. But again, if you look at the National Assembly as the house for lawmaking, passing laws and making sure that there's ease of business and whatever, there are also a number of probes or investigations, if you want to call it that way, or public hearings that are pending, not yet concluded. Of course, the last time we spoke with the committee, subcommittee, or the standing committee in the House looking into the issues of the trade and investment, they are looking into some of these issues. There are those that will be looked into the new year, first week when they come back from the holidays. So there are a lot of issues to be in the power sector. There are still a public hearing pending to look at how the disbursements of the various stimulus, whatever, had been handled. The aviation sector still have their own overhang. So there's still quite a lot of unfinished business out there at the National Assembly. There are a lot of reviews that the National Assembly says, look, they're going to do to support the executive branch to make sure that the ease of business, of doing business, is easily fast-tracked. All these are what folks will be looking forward to in 2017 and say, look, if we can fix some of these laws or regulations and what have you, perhaps we'll be able to recover from recession, and not just to recover, but more importantly, build a new foundation or a different foundation that will move the economy away from rent-seeking, depending largely on the federal government, moving into a free market economy that the government will begin to withdraw as the godfather of business and life in Nigeria, and allow the private sector, the organized private sector that is empowered via infrastructure, right education, social amenities, to take the leadership, to take the lead in driving the economy, and the government just be the one holding the reins and let it run.
But the only way that can work, of course, is if we have the legislature weighing on this, having those bills passed. And one of those many bills, like you already mentioned, was the bill on power trade and investment. And I asked if the viewers felt there were any other unfinished business we missed out in 2016, and Nairametrics says they get to get clarification from the Securities and Exchange Commission on the status of resource savings and loans.
Well, okay, if you look at the financial markets, if we move a bit from the fiscal side to the monetary side, if you ask anyone on the street, folks want more clarity as far as the currency is concerned. Where's the Naira heading? What are the policies that are a little bit stable and few that the central bank, Godwin Emefiele and his team, would put together in 2017? That is unfinished business. Of course, the story is out from Bloomberg that Naira was one of the worst performing currencies among the top 4 in the world in 2016, 36.68% at the interbank spot market. If you go on the street, that figure is worse than that. Egypt was also among the worst, or the worse than Nigeria, 58, almost 59%. These are two large economies in Africa that went for floating FX regime in 2016. So that perhaps is understandable. However, speaking to resource savings and loans, these are investigations, as far as the SEC is concerned, is going to continue to be resolved. Fortunately, in the last days of 2016, the Financial Reporting Council and Stanbic IBTC are able to resolve their own issue that the chairman and the chief executive officer of Stanbic IBTC, Shola Aboha, is now unbarred by the FRC, and Peter said, as the chairman of the bank, they are back in their seat. KPMG has been said, look, go ahead, audit the account. The account has been released. The company is paying dividend. This is one happy ending. One of the one of the happy endings, as it were, for 2016. And folks may think this is small, but it's quite big.
It is.
Look at the number of shareholders in Stanbic IBTC, for example. Look at the bank's financial statement being delayed for almost 2 years. This problem had been on the table. Now they have to sit down and start working on 2016 financial statement. If you look at what has happened to the shares of the company as well, if you look at confidence locally and internationally in a bank such as Stanbic IBTC, these are some of the resolutions that we'll be able to fix in 2016. And I'm sure the stock exchange and the SEC, including the central bank, weighed in on this Stanbic Financial Reporting Council dispute, and were able to resolve it and close that chapter for 2016. That was one good issue. A number of these will, of course, cross over into 2017. Securities matters are not very easy to resolve. Sometimes they're not cut and dry. You need to trace the financial transactions. You need to find out who sold what share at what time. Sometimes you go into the trading engine of the stock exchange. Sometimes you say, give me the books of registrar. This is the Securities and Exchange Commission, and we have inside information that says that the Securities and Exchange Commission is moving its investigation and inspectorate division to Lagos in the new year 2017, because Lagos is where the market is 99% domiciled. So the SEC is moving its inspectorate and investigation department down here to Lagos so that they will be close to the market. They'll be close to the operators, more hands-on. They can easily hear from those who are involved. They can hear from shareholders. They can hear from other people who have information that will help the SEC do its job better. And that is one, and I think that is one good thing. You can't sit in Abuja, for example, and I don't see why the SEC should sit in Washington rather than New York.
Well, good point there for 2016, and I'm sure that's one for the Securities and Exchange. And we've got this one from...
Oh, you have a register? You're marking the table?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes, I am. So
you do some scoring.
Yes. So there's an X and there's an O. But we'll get to the scoring much later. Danny for the Lord says, not much has been said about Nigeria's currency swap deal with the bank in China. Has it had any effect?
Well, that was part of the early days of the administration. And if you remember, as soon as the cabinet was formed, everybody tried to get on the ground and try to do something. So, and I take that very carefully, to do something. So you remember a number of roadshows, everybody's trying to say, look, let's prove that we are doing something, because the cacophony of complaints and agitation from the public is that, look, it took President Buhari so long to put a cabinet in place. And hold on a second, who are on this team? What is their qualification? Remember,
what can they do?
What can they do? What can they deliver? Knowing fully well that 4 years looks like a long term, but it's really a short term in the life of a nation. Therefore, they hit the ground running, and perhaps a bit of carefully using the word exuberance, or perhaps trying to look for friends as easily as quickly as possible, looking for partners as easily as possible, try to see how much we can manage the economy that they inherited, the new administration. Then the issue of the swap came in. It's been allowed to die down quietly. Perhaps that didn't work out. Perhaps it was an idea that was floated. But having come back home and look at the books all over again, and the central bank perhaps says that, hey, Mefele said, look, I don't think we should perhaps go this way. Maybe we should just step down and tell the Chinese, thank you, but no thanks.
But then you see, also coming in from 2016, even though it was not an unfinished business, most of the documents are already on the table. Getting loans from foreign, development finance institutions like the AFDB, for instance. And I know that for a certainty that the AFDB is planning very heavily financing for the electricity sector. And one other sticky point coming in from 2016 was electricity tariffs. There was no conclusion on that matter.
I'll speak to the foreign loans, about 30 billion, and it's a little bit unclear, and I'm saying that as a business journalist, I'm not clear as to what that really is. The government have said it's a loan. Some voices coming up later and said it's not loans, it's an investment drive. Now we need clarity if this is it. As far as the AFDB was concerned, the Ministry of Finance and the Buhari's administration was very, very clear. Through the front door is a loan. We're looking for funding support from AFDB. We requested for 101 billion. We got $600 million in the first tranche. 400 million still being delayed. Egypt, about the same time, about a week ago before Christmas, got $500 million as well, support from the same AFDB to support their own economic reform for 2016-2017, including power sector and what have you. What we will do with electricity tariff in 2017 is anybody's conjecture. Petrol prices is anybody's conjecture. It's still unfinished business. It
is still unfinished business, and that's how 2017 is going to be starting off on an unfinished business note. But Bosin, it's been an absolute pleasure doing business with you in 2016.
365.
I look forward to seeing you. Bosin wasn't of the 365.
Well, we just can't do like that because we see on weekends, what do? You try to monitor what everybody's doing. You need to start planning production for the next week. We live at 365 days a year here on business test.
Yes, we do. And so
business never sleeps.
I will see you in 2017.
Yeah, see you in 20. Well, see you after this in the newsroom.
All right. Well, Business Morning continues in just a moment. We're still taking a look at some of the issues in 2016 and coming into 2017. Stay with us.